don't even know how to describe it. It's like a person, but not. It's walking down the street. It's got a dog, black dog, and sometimes it has orbs like flashing off of it.
Welcome back to another episode of Odd Virginia, everyone. My name is Alex Koska, and I will be your host for this show. Today, we've got some stories coming out of Wintergreen. Now, I've already heard these stories before. If you're anything like me and you love paranormal podcasts, our guest today actually gave his story about 3 years ago on the show Strange Familiars. And imagine my surprise when he ended up in my email inbox asking to come on Odd Virginia. So we're going to hear some stories from Logan, who lives in Wintergreen. And his episode on Strange Familiars was number 148, entitled The Mount Vernon Monster. And he told me that there was more to his stories than what he was able to share on that show. So we're going to get into his stories here real quick. But if you want to, just like Logan, share your stories on Odd Virginia, please send me an email at oddvirginia@protonmail.com. That's oddvirginia@protonmail.com. I'd love to hear from you, because here at Odd Virginia,
we're ready to believe you.
So tonight I've got joining me over Skype a man named Logan, who appeared on episode, I think it was 148 of Strange Familiars. Is that right, Logan?
I'm not sure, probably.
The episode's titled The Mount Vernon Monster on Strange Familiars, which is a show I listen to pretty much all the time. I've been a patron of that show for years. And when one of the guests from that show actually emailed me and found our show, I was super excited to have this story retold here on Odd Virginia. So Logan, thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm just getting over a cold, so I might sound a little stuffy, but so far so good. I've taken my medicine. I've blown my nose. We should be all right. Logan, for the audience, just to get a little bit of familiarity with you, would you like to just give us a little brief summary of kind of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I live in Virginia, Central Virginia, and I used to be a journalist. Now I do some PR stuff for economic in the economic development arena. Okay. So that's what I do. I work in the media, basically.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I liked working as a journalist, but you know how things go with money and everything, and you have to change it up.
Absolutely. Yeah, if I could have my dream job, I'd be living like a pauper. So unfortunately, I've had to switch things up and actually pay my bills. But that's just the way things go.
Yeah.
As far as your Strange Familiars episode was concerned, you talked first about your father and his experiences with what we think is a Sasquatch in Mount Vernon, which is why the episode was titled Mount Vernon Monster. Did you want to go into any of that before we get into your own personal stories?
Yeah, sure. My dad definitely, when he was growing up, followed something called the Mount Vernon Monster. And there's a lot of different accounts of that, and what I talk about on that episode on Strange Familiars is basically just everything he told me, and that can, basically he heard this noise coming from the woods behind his house, not his house actually, one of his neighbors, and he would sit on the roof and listen, and they would shoot. Sometimes I think there's a golf course next to it, and sometimes it would throw golf balls into the yard. And but the noises itself is pretty weird.
Just out of curiosity, and if it's too much information, you don't have to share this, but do you know what road he grew up on or lived on at the time? Because I've got a map of Mount Vernon up right now, and I'm just kind of scrolling around.
Yeah, I actually know the road by heart. It's Union Farm Road.
I see it, Mount Vernon Country Club, which I'm guessing is where the golf course is. But Union Farm doesn't look like it's quite there, so I might be at the wrong Might be at the wrong country club. Oh, there it is. Yep. Okay, so it's right along those woods there. You can see there's a country club on the right-hand side of the road before you get to the dead end, and on the left-hand side, it's wooded.
Yeah.
And he was hearing howls and roars, or what kind of stuff was he hearing back there?
I wouldn't describe it as a growl, but it was more of a roar. So for the audience, listen to Strange Familiars. Tim has it linked to the audio, so you can hear it, but I can't do it justice.
I might be able to sample that clip from the link that he has and actually insert it into the show right here, just so that people can hear it without having to click around.
Okay.
All right, so I was able to find the audio clips, and there's quite a few of them here from Strange Familiars. Shout out Tim Renner. I'm going to post a link to that episode of that show in the show notes, just in case anybody wants to listen to that in its entirety, because Logan does share some stories on that show that he doesn't share here, and some stories here that he doesn't share on that show. But here are the audio clips of the Mount Vernon. These were recorded between 1979 and 1980 at the Mount Vernon Country Club, or right near it. So that is some old audio and clearly not the best quality. But we can hear a few things here, and I'd like to break that down. First of all, this has got to have been recorded in the evening of the summer due to all the insect chatter that is clearly in the foreground. And there is a little bit of noise. You can hear somebody messing with the recorder or touching the recorder, causing a little bit of noise there. But obviously there's something just raising hell there in the background. And what that is, I don't know, but it's off in the distance, and it is definitely making some noise. And it's got to be a vocal creature because we have about 12 clips there of this thing shouting in the distance. So whatever this thing was, it was either very angry or just a very vocal creature. Now, like I said, I'm going to link the episode of Strange Familiars in the show notes so you can listen to that episode if you want to. And while I was looking around on the Strange Familiar website, there is a single comment on this episode, a comment by Steve Winkler, who was also in the area around that time. And I'm going to just go ahead and read his post to add a little bit of extra context to this story. Steve writes, I actually heard it one night around 1978 or 79, but it was all the way over on the west side of Huntley Meadows Park in Fort Belvoir, i.e. Hayfield. I lived right near the tree line, and it was the most bizarre vocalization I've ever heard coming out of the woods. No, it wasn't a fox in heat or in distress or a barred owl. I know what those sound like. About 3 years before that, a friend who also lived near the tree line had his rabbit hutches ripped apart one night with a blood trail going back into the woods. This really freaked us out because there are no bears in that area, and there was no way a fox could have done that. A year later, a group of kids were back in those same woods one night when something massive came crashing through the woods and knocked a rotten tree over. There was no moon that night, so they didn't see it, but they said it sounded like a bulldozer coming through the woods. I spent a lot of time in that wilderness area in those years and saw in 2 separate areas what I now believe to be this cryptid's habitat. One of these areas was way over by the old Beulah Road Pass through near Davidson Army Airfield. An MP recently came forward and said one night he had an encounter with this thing at around 1978, out near the guard shack in a densely wooded area. But by far, the scariest thing that happened was a deer that was impaled on a metal fence post not 50 yards from my house in 1979. There's no other possible explanation for how this deer was impaled, and it's more than coincidental that it happened in 1979, right when the U.S. Park Police and Fairfax County Police were investigating this thing. You tell me how a deer gets impaled on a flat-top 4-foot metal fence pole near the tree line with no gunshot wounds. It was as if something with incredible brute force grabbed it, broke its neck, and slammed it on top of that post. I believe it was a cryptid marking its territory. It's easy to think that these things are only in thousands of square miles of wilderness areas, but they are more prevalent than you would realize in wooded suburban America. So thank you, Steve, for that post, and thank you, Tim, for hosting the sound recordings of the Mount Vernon monster. Let's go ahead and get back to the interview. Logan.
You know, he's in a pretty populated neighborhood there by the looks of it. Mount Vernon's pretty densely populated. It's kind of almost a suburb around Washington. So you're looking at tons and tons of people, like hundreds of thousands of people living in this area. I'm guessing that if something is hanging out in the trees back there, he and many others probably would have heard it.
Yeah. And that's where I get to be my own personal view on this is, you know, I can't believe in a flesh and blood type creature anymore. Because you know as well as I do, Northern Virginia is ridiculously populated.
Oh, yeah.
There's just no way something could exist in the woods up there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think so. I lived in Centerville for 1989 through 1998, and we had woods in our backyard, and I don't think there's any way that something could just be hiding out there completely undetected.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at, basically. Like, I don't know what to make of Bigfoot. Although I've had my own encounters in Virginia. I haven't seen it. I think I've been growled at by one, but you know, it's not to me, it's not a physical thing. Even though I know people see them, it's just so super hard to explain.
No, I'm right there with you. I don't think there is a very good explanation that we've come up with yet as to what it is, at least with any kind of hard evidence backing it. Because when it comes to the intangible, which I think we've ruled out something completely tangible, right? With all of its mysterious and supernatural aspects, we can't really measure the other side of that, the supernatural and the intangible. So what it really is, I don't know if we're ever going to find out until, mainstream science is taking leaps and bounds in a direction that can sort of understand whatever that might be, quantum theory and all that.
Yeah. I don't think I'm ever going to find out what it is. I think that's something I'll find out when I'm on the other side. But like there was a time when I'll just go into an encounter.
Okay.
One time I was walking in the woods with a buddy of mine. We were actually working off a hangover. Just walking through the woods. And that's kind of what we did back in the day. When I was a kid, I grew up walking through the woods and playing in the woods and just being outside. So I lived on a lake when I was growing up. And one day, I had this hangover and I was like, hey, you want to go on a walk? And he was like, yeah, let's go on a walk. And we went across the lake and there's these fields over there. And in one of the fields, there's this door, just a door that you can walk through. It's really weird.
Like a threshold for like someone's house?
Yeah.
Just without the house attached.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird is an understatement.
Yeah, there's just a door in the field. It's propped up right. So I showed him that. And like that's a thing that like I just showed all my friends who came to my house because it's so weird. And there's these woods that I grew up playing in were so weird. I mean, they had a quartz mine back there. I'm talking like somebody dug a mine, probably back towards the Civil War days. And there's just quartz everywhere, just laying about on the ground. And I know that quartz has been brought up a lot in conversations on podcasts and stuff.
Oh, definitely.
In the strange. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not any kind of expert in that. I just note certain things. And that's definitely a big note. So anyways, we're walking over there. We're just walking. We pass the door and we get to like an old, I don't know what you want to call it. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's basically like a old rundown shed / maybe where they used to make moonshine.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what the heck it is, but there's jars there and they're filled with this like fruity substance. It's black now, so I don't even know what it was, if it was moonshine or something else. But,
is there a still in the building?
Yeah, we poured out a still. It's very rusty and just hard to tell what anything is anymore. Anyways, I had been there multiple times before this, and I was just showing him this place, and we came up on it, and all of a sudden, we just heard this growl. That's the best way to describe it. We just heard this growl, and I couldn't determine where it was coming from, and it sounded like it was very close. Like very close doesn't even do it justice. Right in front of me, it basically is what it felt like.
Almost like it was coming out of thin air.
Yes.
Wow.
And I cannot. And we just turned around, me and him, we just turned around, didn't say anything to each other, just started walking the other way back towards the boat where we had crossed the lake. And as we're walking back there, we're just like, man, like, what was that? I mean, it basically, I could feel it in my chest. I mean, I want to say it came from inside this shed, but I can't say that exactly. I can't be accurate about that.
That's just a series of weirdness there. First, you have that door. Is this on your property, or is that like across into national land or someone else's property?
This is other people's property.
Okay, so you're able to just sort of meander,
Yeah,
and nothing's going to happen.
yes.
Okay, and yeah, you have a strange upright door, a field completely littered with quartz. Which, as you were saying, there's a lot of people surmise that granite and quartz have some sort of energy field, which attracts or acts as sort of a doorway for things coming back and forth across the veil. What truth to that there is, no one really knows, but it seems to come up a lot, as you said. And then you've got this old, seemingly moonshiner shack. Is that like kind of in the forest, or is it in open field as well?
It's in the forest, just embedded in the forest.
Okay. So if something were to be trying to like hide out and stalk you, it could be possible.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Right on. It reminded me a lot of an experience I had with a couple of friends of mine when we were in our late teens and we loved to just kind of explore abandoned buildings. We found a place that was on the edge of a wooded area as well, kind of remote. And we explored this old building. It was falling apart. And as we were about to leave, just a massive roar rung out. And like you said, pretty much right in front of us, sent us scattering all across. We ran for our lives, but it was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. Wasn't a bear, because we went back home and checked, online recordings of bears, and it didn't match at all. Plus, it was in the wintertime, so bears would be hibernating. And I don't think black bears even can be that loud. Whatever it was, we had no idea. We couldn't see it, but it was super loud and extremely scary. Just an angry roar.
Wow.
It reminds me a lot of what you just said.
Yeah. It didn't make much sense. I mean, something growled at us, and that if it definitely felt that it was growling at us, in particular. And
yeah,
but there was no source for it. That was the weirdest part.
That is very weird. At least nothing that you could see. Obviously, it was coming from something.
Yeah, it's very strange.
So, do you suspect that that's another instance of Sasquatch?
I mean, that's what that's why when I think of Sasquatch, like, I got this big blank. Like, but yeah, that's basically what I think of Sasquatch.
Yeah, there's no animals that we know of that can just be completely invisible.
Right?
I mean, you do have plenty of underwater creatures who are great at camouflage, but that's, not sheer invisibility. It's totally different.
There were some other encounters that I wanted to go into. Because Virginia is a weird state, man. There's a lot of weird things here. I have a house up near Wintergreen, and I believe that's near where you are.
Yeah, that's not far off at all.
And I golf. I'm a golfer, so I was golfing one day, and I hit my ball into the woods, and I walked into the woods, and I don't know if you do any hiking out there, but when I do hiking out there, there's always these circles of rock, like rock circles, just like maybe next to trails, like if you can imagine a fireplace, like
that's what I was thinking.
A campfire.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they are. But anyways, where I hit my golf ball in the woods, there were these circles of rocks everywhere, like just kind of like right next to each other. And I see that a lot camping, and hiking. And I don't think, like, I get the distinct feeling that they're not campfires. They are not used for campfires.
One easy way to tell is just scorch marks.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So I thought that was weird, just in general. And I finished my game of golf, and I realized my phone's gone. My friend leaves, he goes home, and I'm about to go back up to my house on top of the mountain. And I'm like, damn, my phone's gone. So I looked it up on Find My iPhone, and my phone is located in the middle of the woods, like way away from this golf course.
What?
Yeah. And I have no idea how it got there.
Sounds like some kind of trickster playing something on you.
Yeah. I'm not doing any drugs or anything. Literally just my phone's gone, and I can see where it is. It's on this person's property, but it's in the middle of the woods, and it just doesn't make any sense. So I go to this person's house, and I bring my computer with me, and I'm like, hi, ma'am, basically I have no idea how my phone ended up on your property, but here it is. And I showed her the GPS, and she said, I'm like, can I go get it? And she says, yes. And so I walk out there, and I come to a stone circle. And in the middle of the stone circle is a piece of quartz, but I don't see my phone. And there's like it's kind of like a pyramid type, like mountain, like they stacked the rocks basically. And that
kind of like a cairn.
Yeah. But there's there's that piece of quartz right in the middle of it. That's just weird. But the GPS says my phone is right there. I don't see it. I never found my phone.
Whoa. Did you try digging or anything like that?
No, I didn't.
That is so weird.
Right?
And one thing that strikes me as weird about it is that, all computerized equipment contain quartz in them as like just a little bit as a clock for, the running the processes and timing the processes. So there's a little bit of quartz in your phone, and there's also quartz on the ground right where your phone should be. I'm not sure if there's any connection there, but that's just strange.
Yeah, it definitely is. But yeah, that's the end of that story.
So do you believe in trickster spirits or fairies or anything of that nature?
Yeah. I mean, I believe in something. I'll say that. I don't know what they are, but something definitely took my phone.
and you suspect it just picked your pocket?
Yeah, I mean, basically.
And dumped your phone somewhere in the woods,
yeah,
perhaps.
And it's almost like I was golfing, and I went to that stone circle, and like my phone ended up at another stone circle, kind of like a teleport. I don't know, like that's the vibe I get.
Yeah. Doing the misplaced objects and things like that are always well, I guess not always, but usually associated with the fey creatures or fairies or whatever you might want to classify them as, trickster spirits. And they say that they live in rocks. It's part of classic lore. So those things connecting to me is just where I go in my head, That's definitely very interesting.
Yeah. Let me continue on some of the other things I've seen in Virginia. So orbs. Orbs are a big thing. Back to my house growing up. I graduated from college. I came home, and I'm sure you heard on Strange Familiars, like I started seeing all these orbs, and still see them, but I don't know. It's gotten weirder. That I talked about a girl in that episode that I hung out with, and I still hang out with her, and we go and watch these things. And recently, there's this, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a person, but not. It's walking down the street. It's got a dog, black dog, and sometimes it has orbs like flashing off of it, shooting around it. It's weird. I can't even describe it.
Strange.
Yeah. And no matter how many times we go, like we'll go like any week at any time, like of the night, and we'll sit across the road from this other street, and we'll just walk. And there's two fields in front of us, and this man just starts walking down the road with this dog. and there's something strange about it. He almost looked like his face was upside down or something like that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Yeah. And or like a tablet. Like there's no way to describe what I'm trying to explain. There's like he looks like he has a tablet on his face, like an iPhone, like an iTablet or whatever it's called.
What?
Yeah. And that's the weirdest thing ever. Like, I don't even know how to describe that any better than I am right now.
Yeah, that would straight freak me out. Is it daytime or nighttime you see this guy?
Mostly at nighttime, but at daytime he comes too. Like we'll be watching them, like say like he walks by, and it's like almost like your mind goes somewhere else. Like you know how people are always talking about like, oh, why didn't you take photos? Why didn't you do this, that?
Yeah.
It's almost like something happens when you're seeing these things.
Mm-hmm.
Where like we went like, he passed by us and then we pulled out 2 minutes later and he's gone.
And does it seem like he's just on a normal stroll with walking a dog, like on a leash or what?
It looks like I don't see a leash, but the dog walking steadily in front of him, as if he were to be on a leash. And it's a big black dog, but it looks like, I don't even know how to explain that. I mean, it looks like a wolf, I guess. And sometimes, like this dude has, this sounds crazy, but like a hoverboard that he's carrying. That's what it looks like. Yeah, dude, I don't even know how to describe this. But like the way I've confirmed it, like there's ways cause I know how crazy it sounds. And the way I have to confirm it is like, did this person really walk in front of me? So like at nighttime, there'll be a house light, and he'll walk in front of the house light, and the house light will disappear. And then when he goes by, it'll reappear. So that's like a little confirmation for me. Like, okay, somebody actually just walked past me. But I'll pull out of the driveway or the road that we're sitting next to a minute later, and there's no one there. So
How many times have you seen this guy?
I've seen him twice, but the girl that I've go with, she's seen him a lot. She's the one that says, he's got these weird orbs like flashing off of him and stuff. I've seen that too, but not as much as her. I don't even know what I don't like categories, but I don't even know what category this could go into.
Yeah, that covers a lot of ground there with the black dog, weird guy, orb lights. There's a lot of things in one there.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the orbs themselves, like, I've seen a lot of those. They just float through the trees. I mean, that's basically what they do. Have you ever seen them?
Maybe. I've seen something way off in the distance, which I'm not sure what it was. It was just not moving like a plane or like a helicopter or like a satellite, anything like that. It looked like a star to me from my perspective. I was up watching the night sky while camping, but it would kind of swim around in the sky very strangely for hours. So it couldn't have been a drone. It would have had to come down. But it stayed up there forever.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was. But no, I've never seen like a spook light, will-o-wisp orb type light before.
Okay. Let me think of some instances where I have seen them, because I've seen them a lot. It's just hard to think of certain ones. Basically, like, I've only seen them at nighttime, and they're really weird, man. Like, the way they move is like almost mechanical. I mean, I don't want to say mechanical, but like wobbly. Like, it just kind of like does its own thing. That's the best way to describe it. And I know that doesn't do any good for the audience, but trying to think of a better way to describe it.
Does it look kind of like it's sort of swimming through the air? Because I think when fish swim through the water, they look a little wobbly in a way.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. Like, fish will pause and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what it looks like. One time I came home and like I said this on Strange Familiars, and I was cutting the grass, and as I was finishing up, there looked to be like this, if someone was walking with a headlamp on, but you couldn't see the body. And they're walking up a hill, like across the street in a field. And all I see is the point of the light.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looked like. And so I knew, but at that time I knew, I had been seeing these things for a little while, so I knew what I was dealing with. And so I went inside and I sat next to a window, and I was like just watching it. And, it would like flicker on and off, and it would just do these little weird movements. Sometimes it would change colors, like purple or something. But it's almost like you can't even tell what color it is. And then, I had this neighbor who, I was really close to, and I had told him about these things, and I was like, there's something weird up in the sky at nighttime around our houses. And he's like, next time you see it, let me know. And so I told him, and he comes walking over, and there it is. But it disappears. Like, there's the trickster aspect to it again. Like, it tricks you. Like, he comes over and it goes away. So now I look crazy. And it's like, man. And then we're like, well, let's go walk over here and see if we can see it. And we go over there, and like, there it is. It's up in the sky, but it's like steadily rising. And then at the same time, he goes and runs to get his binoculars, and I'm I'm standing there like watching this thing, and at the same time, it looks like a truck just turns on in the middle of the field. I mean, it came out of nowhere. I mean, I don't know where it came from. Like, I know that's crazy that sounds, but it's like it just appeared, and it was very black, blacker than black. And while he was in there looking for the binoculars, this thing just tore off. It's like, what is going on? Like, this thing's in the air. This truck's randomly here, and it's leaving in an abrupt manner. And he's inside getting binoculars. It's like, and he comes back, and I'm like, there's a truck out there. And he's like, what? Because like this field, there's not supposed to be any trucks in this field. It's a tall field, tall grass. I mean, you call it a wheat field.
Okay.
And there's just not supposed to be any trucks back there. So I mean, I got the distinct vibe, and I don't know if this is just my bias or like my knowledge playing a part in my brain, but I got the distinct vibe that it was like a government related truck or something that was also there observing this light.
Was it sort of like a pickup truck, or?
Yeah, it was a pickup truck, but like a Super Duty, like black pickup truck with antennas. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's extremely strange. Did you see any like tire marks in there when the light came back? Any sort of track?
Yeah, I went back and checked, and they looked like there were tire marks, but they looked like they were older than they should have been. So that's another weird thing.
Like it didn't just happen last night.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't know, man. I have no idea what to make of all that.
Yeah.
And normally when it comes to orb lights, you don't normally hear about, sort of government or any sort of officials being on the scene and observing. Usually it just kind of happens. It's one of those things that just happens in the woods out in the middle of nowhere. No one really sees it unless they do.
And, yeah, it was very weird for there to be a truck back there, and it kind of just popped up out of nowhere.
Now, near where you live, are there any sort of military facilities?
Yeah, there is. There's AP Hill, and then there's like a North Anna nuclear facility nearby.
Yeah, I've been to Anna before,
but that's pretty much it. Everything that I've experienced since I talked on Strange Familiars has been like the thing in the rock circles in the woods has really got my mind peaked. I just don't know what those are. I've asked, I got pizza from somebody up like a local guy that makes pizza up there, and I asked him, I was like, hey, have you seen those rock circles out in the woods? And he's like, yeah, I think they're indigenous.
Indigenous rock circles.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what to make of them, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on around you, man. Do you feel like there's any way that you are enchanted, or what some may call like a tagged individual who's just attracting weird things like this? Or perhaps you're just in the right place at the right time for these things?
I don't know. Dude, like, I've been wondering, I mean, I don't know if it's something to do with me or if it's something to do with the landscape. Other people don't see these things, so I think it's got a little bit to do with both. And I only see these things certain places.
Yeah, I've always felt like for me, I'm the right time, right place kind of person because I don't have things like feeling like it follows me around all the time. But I have had my handful of experiences as well. And to me, I just think it's sheer coincidence if I ever do get any sort of hair raising up on the back of my neck, strange occurrences. I think I'm just right where that thing is at that time.
Yeah. The rocks, the rock circles are just very strange. Like it goes back to, you can look, these things look like they kind of were maybe indigenous. You think about Stonehenge, that kind of thing. And there's still so many questions surrounding that. And it's like, well, it goes all the way down to these little circles, in Virginia. There's just, I don't know what it is about stones and circles, but there's something weird about them. And
there is a mystical quality to it. Yeah, I'd agree. And are you insinuating that this might be like related to the people of the deep past, perhaps Native Americans putting these things there?
Yeah, that's what I'm insinuating.
Okay. For what purpose, we wouldn't know.
I have no idea.
I believe in your area it was the Powhatan tribe. So perhaps we could find something on that, and maybe I'll look into it. That's definitely food for thought.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Yes, if anybody else has any sort of information on stone circles or any sort of speculation, you can put that in the comments below if you're listening on YouTube or Rumble. And if you're listening on any other platforms, feel free to email me at oddvirginia@protonmail.com. Love to hear what you think about that. Logan, do you have anything else that you wanted to share with us today?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Well, it's been excellent having you on as a guest today. Your stories are amazing. And if you do have anything more that you'd ever like to share, you know where to find me.
I appreciate it, and stay safe, and let me know if you see anything weird in Virginia.
Yes, sir. I'll definitely be telling all about it whenever I do, but it's the rare occurrence. Definitely a rare occurrence.
All right, man.
Well, you have a good night, sir. Thank you so much for calling.
You too.
All right. Well, that was just a litany of strange occurrences. From the Mount Vernon monster to the fairy rock circles, the orb lights, the man with the upside down face and his black dog. I don't know what to make of all of it. If you have any ideas, you can post a comment in the comment section below if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble. Otherwise, you can also just email me at oddvirginia@protonmail.com. I'd love to hear your ideas as to what's going on there with Logan and his strangeness. Like I said before, I'm going to have a link in the show notes to his episode on Strange Familiars, episode 148, the Mount Vernon Monster. It's a wonderful listen, and you're going to hear even more craziness that you did not hear tonight. Keep strapped and on the lookout for our next episode. We're going to be talking about the Shadow Men next time. So y'all stay tuned and stay odd. I'll see you later, Virginia. Good night.